All right, all right. Welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict Breaking News. What's going on, Elizabeth?
A very interesting turn of events. And we're going to start with a question, and that is India dumping the US for Russia?
Oh
Vladimir
my God.
Putin just went to Russia, and some very interesting things transpired.
Well, indeed, whoever thought, because Vladimir Putin canceled his G20 summit and even his trip to China because of the pandemic, it was postponed. And yet he decided to travel to India. Interesting enough is that this year he only traveled twice.
Mm-hmm.
One in June or July when he met with Biden for the summit, and the second one to India. But right there, this tells you something far beyond what you can just read on a headline or in newspapers. You know.
Absolutely. And I'm actually really glad that you brought that up because, we look at what are the words that are being spoken when sometimes it's actually more important to look at the actions that are being taken.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, for him to have only gone two places and one of them being India, that is a very big sign. And that's something we see from Vladimir Putin a lot, is that he speaks through action a lot.
That is true. That is true. But also, you have to put the Russian-Indian relations under the microscope of or under the lenses of the current geopolitical landscape. Well, usually the Russo-Indian relations are traditionally good. Overall, you are not going to compare them, for example, to the relationship Russia has with China.
Of
That
course.
that's just not going to
Yeah.
work. So even the chemistry, if you think about it, between Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi, it's good, sort of. It's displayed on the world stage as they like each other. Yeah, that's normal because each one of them plays a specific role when it comes down to influencing the global geopolitical landscape. But each one of them on a different trajectory. So
Absolutely. So what do you think, David, of some of the the big thing that's being publicized is the
yeah,
oil deal. And I think there's some I think it's being a little bit blown out of proportion, but what do you think, David?
well, that is true. You're absolutely correct in your assessment because if how many barrels they're going to be receiving from Russia? India is going to be receiving
Uh,
from India.
15 million by
Yeah,
the end of
yeah.
2022. So not very many.
No, no, that's nothing. Because if you look at the economic ties between the two countries, they've been stalling for a while. So there is now what's going on right now with the changes, as I said earlier, with the changes on the geopolitical landscape, is that there is this mutual suspicion that is now creeping up over in India, the relations with America, also, but also with Russia's relation with China. So you
Right.
can just see each one of them has whatever needs to be doing to manage the geopolitical shifts that's taking place. And in this context, it is my belief, as one who wrote a book about Russia last year,
Mhm.
so I kind of had to
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. So I had to dig deeper into understanding the strategic moves for Russia to manage the new global order, shall we say. So,
Mhm.
with this trip to India, the way I look at it is that Vladimir Putin was thinking in terms of Russia in this case, he'll be thinking, he said, well, we're going to need to rethink this strategy. We're going to have to adjust our relations and we're going to have to upgrade our approach to India. That's how, in my view, how I assessed the trip for him to travel to India. It's because of these three elements: to rethinking the strategy,
Mhm.
adjusting the strategy, and upgrading the approach. So from the economic perspective, yeah, you're gonna see some contracts being signed, some deals between the governments, but you have to look at this under the landscape of the geopolitical shift.
I absolutely agree, and I think that this oil deal, although it's honestly very small, India consumes about 4 million barrels per day. So it's very, very small. But it was, like you were talking about, an opening. And in that opening, they did 28 other deals, and some of them were military. So you're absolutely right. We're seeing a different approach to India. And I wonder, David, I'd love your opinion on this. The relation between India and China is less warm. Do you think it's possible that this is sort of a back road in for China into India? What do you think about that?
You mean Russia?
Yes.
Yeah, not China, Russia,
Well,
right? Are you referring to, is this going to benefit India more so than it's going to benefit China?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Thank you for understanding what I was saying.
Yeah. Because you were thinking, yeah. Oh, no, I see what you mean. No, the idea is, remember, for India had agreed to the U.S. request for joining the Quad, as an example. Okay, joining the Quad, we all know that India is not going to contribute much to it. Even the Quad itself, as an alliance, is going to be useless anyway. But as we always say, in international relations, context matters. The fact that India has joined the so-called Quad give it some sort of a prestige now that India, I am with the United States. But all that doesn't mean a thing, because if we are to go back to your example about the oil, India was forced to dump its deal with Iran when it was getting most of its energy from Iran. And the US has forced India to cut that deal altogether. And India had no choice but to agree, which tells you what right there, that India does not want to have the wrath of the US befall on it. So that's why they are walking a very, very tight rope as to managing the relationships in the region. But there is one thing that our viewers need to understand, is that I had a chance to read briefly the July 2021 edition of the Russian National Security Strategy. It's similar to what we do in the United States, when we have a strategy for what do we see next year, how it's going to move specifically towards certain countries, and so forth. The one thing that captured my attention had to do with how the Kremlin is evaluating the relationship, or describes the relationship between Moscow and New Delhi. And they use the term, and I quote here, special privileged strategic partnership.
That's interesting. What do you think that means? That's a lot of words, right?
It is. But
so what does that really mean?
Well, all it means, in a simple language for our viewers to understand, is you cannot compare this to the strategic partnership Russia signed with China. Those are on the opposite ends. Where this special relationship comes in is that India usually purchases a lot of military hardware from Russia. So Russia looks at India as a market. But also because Russia understands the ongoing tensions between India and Pakistan. So, and this is where you see this kind of approach from Moscow towards India, is even though we are not going to have the relationship the same level that one we have with China, we're still going to give them the illusion that they are so important, like striking their ego, basically. That's
so you think that it's not necessarily genuine, it's more of an ego stroke, it's more of a visual.
No, it is genuine. You know why? You know why it is genuine? Because Russia hopes to push India away from the United States as far as possible.
I see that, absolutely.
That is no. It's genuine. It's just the content of the relationship. We cannot compare it to, for example, what China and Russia have. That ain't gonna happen. It's because China is not India and India is not China. And economically, it will benefit Russia more in China than it will benefit Russia through India.
So do you see this this basically meeting and then these 28 deals that were sort of struck during this meeting, do you see that as more important or less important than it's being made out to be? Because my observation is that Russia is really making it look big. They're making it look like a big deal that they did this with India. Do you think it is that big of a deal, or India is just sort of beginning to open that door to Russia?
I will go with the latter assessments. And the reason being because what the projection, the interest in this economic projects for Russia, especially because Russia thinking about extending all these economic projects that India said it will do, it's going to go all the way to Vladivostok. Well, what's in Vladivostok? That is a strategic location for the Navy fleets for the Russians.
Yep.
So you can just see, to Russia, it makes more sense to, if I am to advise Vladimir Putin, and I said, no, you need to go to New Delhi physically. You don't do Zoom, whatever. You go physically, because it's going to show India. It gives them a different projections. Because remember, even the elites in India from the business community, they're not seeing this they're not seeing this translating into a good fortune for them. Yeah, they're not. Because you're gonna know the dynamics in India also. They have their own internal dynamics. And the elites are not too crazy or excited about this overture or openness, economic openness that is towards Russia. But what's interesting is that Russia made it look as it is. Oh my gosh, that's what it is. It's a strategic.
They sure did.
Move. And here is another piece of information that makes this even much bigger: is that Russia decided to grant the Narendra Modi the decoration of the Order of the St. Andrew. Well, St. Andrew, it's like a meritorious medal for us here in the U.S., Medal of Freedom, whatever. So there are only 4 leaders around the world that receive that.
Wow. Who are they? Who are the other leaders?
The only 2 I'm very familiar with are Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so I'd love to talk a little bit more about, the Russia-China expansion sort of into Southeast Asia, Middle East, sort of into that entire corridor. Because my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that there's some push, at least by some countries, to not have China and Russia sort of overtake that entire area. And, there are different ways to overtake land. One can be by business and the other is militarily. So we're not really seeing it militarily, but in terms of business deals, they really are pushing very heavily sort of into that entire corridor. And, perhaps not everyone is on board with that. I know the US is not on board with that really, but some of those countries also, my understanding is that they're not quite on board with it either.
Now, when you say countries, in the region or outside the region?
In the region.
In the region. Well, those won't be many, because the way you look at it is that look at no further than the visit today by Secretary of State Blinken to Jakarta in Indonesia. Why was he there? He was just trying to push it back. But it's because Russia has agreed on a cooperation with the Indonesian government regarding information security and military cooperation. That is the reason why. But also because the United States understands that not only Indonesia or any ASEAN country, you cannot ignore a $2.3 trillion economy with a 30% population of the world resides in that part of the world. So to them, meaning to ASEAN countries, the path is clear. they don't want to be side with whatever. They're looking for economic opportunities. Okay.
Right.
Now keep that in mind. Then put India in the picture. India decided to push 5G out of India.
Mm-hmm.
They are losing right there on infrastructure.
Yeah.
India said no way to BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
India is losing on initiatives. And
Mm-hmm.
also, this is where Russia comes in. This is why Russia understands those dynamics, what's going on, for them to ensure, first of all, that their military hardware is sold to India.
Yep.
Okay. But on the other hand, ASEAN countries are going to realize, okay, with the tension being ratcheted up by the United States mainly, with the establishment of AUKUS, like what our guest said yesterday on our show when he came in and explained it perfectly. It's those dynamics is not going to be benefiting India in the long term.
Yeah.
That's where I see it going. As far as this economic venture with Russia, it's nothing compared to what, for example, some ASEAN countries have with China.
Right.
Because the volume of the economic trades between those countries is massive. So, and this is where the visit was a success. Well, you can call it that to a degree. But Vladimir Putin knew what he was doing as far as, I gotta what's the word? Strike the ego of the Indians for them to feel better on the world stage and give them that opportunity. But also with having in mind, I gotta pull India away from the US slowly.
Yes. And I think that can be really shown by sort of the volume of what's been done. So they set a target of 30 billion in trade and 50 billion in investment by 2025. That's a lot, and it's also not.
That's true. But at the same time, when you look at India and Russia's economies, they remain far less complementary than those of Russia and China.
Right.
I mean, just common sense, because the volume of the trade between those countries is far bigger.
It is.
And as I said earlier, even the business community in both India and Russia, they are largely disinterested in each other's country, because they're asking what's in it for us, what opportunities are there for us.
Absolutely.
So, and this is why the economic approach to it, yes, they might sign this and sign that. The key to it will be into the military hardware. That's where India can make some difference, shall we say.
Are you talking about military hardware that they are purchasing from Russia, or the military hardware that Russia is signed on for them to make?
No, actually, they are purchasing from Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do have some, like, for example, there was some type of missile that was established in India, but
yes.
but the Russian
S-400 air defense missile system, is that what you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
That one is pure Russians. There is another system that was built inside India, but I forget the name of it. But that one, with the assistance of Russia, but it's just not going to cut it, because Russia is far ahead when it comes down to the missile technology that can defy whatever the radars and so forth, which is another conversation for another day. The bottom line to it is that this is why China, this is why India, over the objection of the United States, went ahead and purchased the S-400 system, the air defense system that is Russian made, which is going to be delivered by the end of the year. So.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that got talked about actually in this meeting, because I think that was a deal that was made in 2018.
That's correct.
Something like that. It was a little bit ago, but that it's actually being fulfilled now, which I think that's very interesting timing for that to be fulfilled.
That is correct. Well, there is another piece of information to this also, that during the visit, India raised its interest in purchasing the upcoming version of the S-500 missile system, which is
Mm, yeah.
the next level. Russia didn't say yes yet. I don't see that happening this quick, because
Mhm.
because remember, Russia has good relations with other countries in the region,
Yeah.
and it's not going to just hand the S-500 system to India. First of all, they're still in the process anyway, but in a process for the Russian military to have or to acquire those missile systems first before
Mhm.
anybody else gets it. So, but the
I'm
fact,
sure. I'm
I
sure
know,
that makes
yeah,
sense for them to have it first
yeah.
before they sell it to other people.
Exactly. But it made just more sense from a strategic perspective that India is already addressed this issue with Russia,
Mhm.
which gives you an indication of the nature of the relationship between Russia and India. That's where this is going.
Yeah, and I want to add there's 600 Kalishnikovs that India will produce
Mhm.
um for my understanding I think is for Russia, which is also very interesting.
Yeah,
So
I didn't come across that one yet. I mean, usually I'm interested in the bigger systems,
yes,
shall we say?
definitely. But
Mhm.
I think that points to,
That's true.
one of the 28 things that was discussed, and one of them
Mhm.
was military. And so that was part of the military component of the discussion of
You're
the
absolutely correct.
28
Yeah,
deals that were struck.
you're right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's just interesting the scope of the different deals that
Mm.
were made during this time, and even if they're not necessarily that big, I
Mhm.
think that they set a precedent for Russia's interest in these specific areas going forward with India. Do you
That's
think
correct. Well, I think of it mainly from a strategic perspective, because that's the whole purpose of the visit. The
yeah,
visit, yes, it has some economic
very
components to
strategic.
it, but it's for strategic because Russia understands the role India plays, for example, when it comes down to Afghanistan.
Mhm.
Russia understands the role that India is going to play when it comes down to access to the Persian Gulf. All this, those are strategic interests that any country will have to think about ahead of time and preposition itself to ensure that, on that front, we
Mhm.
have that particular country that's going to be assisting us if we ever need it. And that's why I saw the visit, by which I kind of knew about it ahead of time, and I did my own research in reading up more to understand what will be the purpose of this trip, knowing
Yeah.
how the geopolitical landscape is, and I came to the conclusion, and this is my personal opinion, that it is a strategic move from on behalf of Russia. That is the
I
reason why.
share that. I share that from a human behavioral standpoint. I absolutely share that. And the majority of what happens between world leaders is
Yeah,
giving messages on that level.
and
Even if it's not specifically the 15 million barrels of oil, which is in some ways negligible, honestly, but
yeah,
the statement that's being made by beginning a deal like that is that we are open to a strategic partnership. And so I
exactly.
think you're absolutely right. It
Yeah,
has very much more to do with um, sending a message than it does
exactly.
the
Yeah.
actual deal.
And that will be the same for the Narendra Modi receiving the
Mhm.
medal from Russia. That's the highest medal. That is only the fourth leader in the world that received that. It's
And
just
that's
the
a big
prestige.
deal.
Yeah, it's the message basically. That's what it is. But just the bottom line for our viewers to know, if you are to break all this down, it comes to one specific aspect, and that specific aspect, it has to do with the strategic vision for Russia when it comes down to its neighborhood, knowing what's
Yeah.
going on in Ukraine, knowing what's going on with NATO, knowing what's going on with the tensions with the US, the sanctions,
Mhm.
and so forth. So Russia is thinking always, and that's Russia. If you look at its history, Russia has always been behaving that way. It thinks of
Yeah.
2 moves or 3 moves before an enemy or an opponent or whatever is going to be thinking. That's why they're good in chess games.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say that's why
yeah.
that's why Russia, they say that Russia plays chess.
Exactly.
But I wanted to very much point out that when, what's happening right now is a reshuffling of the global order. You talk about that. We talk about that all the time. And, when a reshuffling happens, people go towards creating partnerships, right? Countries understand that they need to strategically ally with other partnerships. And it seems as if both China and Russia are actually trying to do that right now. And they're doing it in an incentive type of way instead of necessarily a punishment type of way, though I think that probably happens too. It seems like it's an incentive plan of offering economic development, offering the things that countries need. It's more of the carrot versus the stick. Does that make sense?
Well, that's why in the case of China, they're approaching it through business, and the US
Exactly.
approaching it through military. That's why
Right.
China thinks in a long term.
Well, and that's the carrot, right? The carrot
That's
is
true.
the economic incentive. The carrot is the how can we help you grow
That's true.
versus, the military stick of, how do we beat you into
Yeah.
submission, honestly. Or, a lot of what we know was happening throughout, the 70s and the 80s with the IMF and the ways that the US got other countries into debt.
Yeah.
So and I don't know whether this is true or not. We're still sort of deep diving into the way that, China specifically is building up these other economies through business. That's something we'll explore, I think, indefinitely, because they're doing a lot of it. But I wanted to highlight the behavior of it, of the incentive, carrot incentive versus the stick disincentive of, economic growth versus war.
Exactly.
And this may be happening in their own countries, but we're talking about foreign policy.
Yeah, but also you have to take this into the context of the changes in the global order. It's because if you look at history, most of the great powers have emerged from where? Europe.
Yeah.
And now you have somebody else rising or ascending to power from the Far East.
At least in recent history, but a little bit further back, I mean, China and Russia have both had their heydays a little bit further
way back. Yeah.
Right,
and
way back.
Yeah, and it's just that change is not settling well with the Western powers, mainly the US, and we're going to have to adjust to the new reality because it's a reality. It's whether we like it or not. We're going to have just to adjust and figure out a better way of how we all can coexist in a peaceful way.
That's I think, ultimately the point, David, is that it's not about us versus them.
No.
There's a lot of divisiveness all over the world. There's a ton of divisiveness here in the United States, but we're not different. We don't need to fight each other. We can come together. And I think we need to come together. Indeed. If we're going to succeed as a planet at this point, I think we need to come together instead of that us versus them mentality.
And we're going to have a guest soon who's going to be addressing these global changes, somebody who knows a great deal about it. So we will have, just for our viewers to know, that interview is coming up soon, and we will release that video once it's up, and you will enjoy the insights of it. So
check it out, Tarot Man.
Let me see. Oh, Tarot Man, thank you very much, Tarot Man.
Thank you, and thank you, Tarot Man. We see you connecting us with people. We see you posting our stuff. Thank you.
Yeah,
you are amazing.
We appreciate
really
it.
Appreciate it.
It means a lot to us. Speaking of our viewers and supporters, that is. So I'm noticing when I go on my Twitter account, I got more conversations with individuals. Wonderful conversations. I didn't see any sort of nastiness, whatever. People are open to, discussions in a civil way, and we truly appreciate that one. So
and one more, bear with me.
Oh my gosh, thank you
so much. Bear with me.
Yeah, we
truly
really appreciate it. Speaking of our viewers, just to let them know that tomorrow we're going to be doing our hourly Q&A. Is that correct?
Yes,
right?
That's
With
right.
Our viewers
at 11 a.m. our time, it's already up, so you can join it and get alerts.
Yeah, make sure, guys, you join us for that live Q&A. It's only Q&A to answer your questions, because we don't have enough time on Fridays when we do our live stream. So we decided to go ahead and allocate 1 hour specifically just for you, for you ask whatever questions, and we'll answer to the best of our abilities. And if we can answer a question for you, we'll get you the answer once we find it, and we'll look for it and we'll get that to you. So
Absolutely.
To our membership, I like to mention something quickly here about our membership. If you have not checked it out, please do so. Go to geopoliticsinconflict.com. That's where we offer our membership. It has some perks in it. It has a lot of stuff we do. And speaking of that, we're going to be doing a live presentation this Friday for our members only. And this one has to do with the new global military order. You can just get a feel for what are we going to be covering on this. So it shall be an interesting presentation and conversation with our members. So
yes, and that one I'm very excited for. But yes, check out our membership at geopoliticsinconflict.com. And then, yes, follow us on Twitter. David is at DWalaloo and I'm at Alchemy of E. And we love talking to you guys. We love your comments. We respond back. We love having conversations with you guys. So please follow us on Twitter.
Indeed. So, and as I mentioned, we're going to be having an interview tomorrow with one of our guests. We're going to address some very, very major topic regarding the global order, shall we say. And I have great respect for this guest, because I know of him and I'm aware of his work, and he's very, very, very knowledgeable guy. So we look forward to that interview. So anything else to add, Elizabeth, before we leave?
That's it. We will be, as you said, remember the Q&A tomorrow, guys.
Exactly.
And yeah, we love doing these. So thank you guys so much for being with us.
Yeah. Well, as always, we take this opportunity to say thank you for your support. And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.